Unlike against Real Madrid, in what was a major theme in this match for me, Barcelona against Juventus felt a lot more like a friendly than the El Clasico that we just watched. And for those who have come to hear me talk about the PK reactions, well, you're unfortunately going to be a bit disappointed. But if you came to hear me try to figure out something that might be a long-term theme throughout this season that Xavi wanted to see in this match, well, you came to the right place. Because I'm going to do my best here to give you the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-2 draw with Juventus in preseason action. One is moments of brilliance. This is one of those friendlies where it's difficult to have multiple headlines, and I think if we have just one headline for the whole match, it has to be about Ousmane Dembele. He didn't start against Real Madrid in El Clasico. That was Rafinha. Rafinha winds up getting the super goal, and now it looks like Dembele is certainly going to be Robin to Rafinha's Batman. But hold on here, because Dembele not only put Juve's defenders to sleep, but he scored the only 2 goals that Barca had in this one. And not only did he score the goals, but they were incredible individual goals. So much to the point that he looked like he was toying. Well, he did toy with Cuadrado quite a bit, showing that he's not really a defender himself. And he just blitzed through the rest of that Juve back line because you don't know where to step, as in to his left foot, to his right foot, which foot does he want to shoot with, and how quickly do you try to step to him before he can step past you and dribble right by. While Dest did not have a good day defensively, we'll get to that in a bit, that Dembele and Dest partnership does work out better for Dembele than it even, I think, does Dest. For some reason, I have no stats to back this up, Dembele seems to defend much better when Dest is on the field. And I'm not sure if that's because Dembele feels more responsible because Dest defending isn't the best. If Dest can't raise his level, or Koundé is on the way and is going to play right back, along with Araujo playing right back, maybe they'll switch off. If Roberto might even overtake him on the depth chart, or if Azpilicueta is on the way as well from Chelsea, then I don't see how Dest gets many minutes. And of course, if that's the case, the club is going to try to sell him before this summer is done. And much in the Dest vein, while he gets a little bit of credit for his work on the goals, that being Eric Garcia, who had a run prior to the first that really opened up the space to help Dembele attack that 1v1. And then for the second goal, having that cross field, that diagonal pass that we know he's capable of, once again opening up Dembele to plenty of space on that right flank, all by his lonesome. But for those who have been following me for a while, know that many Kool-Aids, especially on the internets, are going to forget all about what Eric Garcia did well in the build-up because of defensively the issues that he continues to have and will continue to have this season until I think he puts together a large sample size, not to change Xavi's mind. I think Xavi's mind, as I've said before, is already a bit changed. He does have more trust in Eric Garcia than I think Kool-Aids do at home, and especially those reactionaries on the internet. But that said, Eric Garcia still, those fouls he commits with the defender, with his back to goal, that being Barcelona's goal, 40 yards out, those fouls over and over again. If it was a league game or a Champions League game, he's getting a yellow and potentially getting 2 yellows for what he does defensively. It can't happen. It's a mistake that you know Xavi just going crazy on the sideline about. And it seems to me that he also consistently, that being Garcia, finds himself helping Ter Stegen pick the ball up at the back of the net when sometimes those diving tackles make it into the box, but sometimes when you're playing against a Moise Kean, they don't. 2, and headline 2 being lack of creativity, is that it all had to be about Dembele because in that first half in particular, there wasn't much coming out of the midfield. And it was a puzzling choice, that midfield trio that Xavi picked in Kessié, in Nico, and Busquets. Because with that trio, I mean Gabi on the bench, and we know Gabi's kind of working through being creative. I was really impressed, throwing this out there right now, really impressed by Gabi's second half showing, where alongside Pablo Torre, 2 guys who can be creative, it was Gabi that was the leader in that creativity, worked really well with Memphis Depay in particular. So really happy with the things that Gabi is showing, at least in little spurts here, and I expect to see more and more in that as he progresses. And then Pedri, we'll talk about him later, he got the day off. So that left that midfield trio of, again, Kessié, Nico, and Busquets, meaning your creativity is going to come from the long balls from Busquets, or it was going to come from Franck Kessié. But I think Juve did a really good job forcing Nico and Kessié to be these box-to-box defenders and kind of neutralize their ability to play balls through the lines or the half spaces. Instead, it was all about going horizontal. And if Xavi's high interiors, as again we saw with Pedri earlier in this preseason, or Gabi and Pablo Torre in the second half, if those interiors for Barcelona are not getting into the half spaces, it really does shut a lot down, especially for Lewandowski through the middle. And those 2 were a bit uninspiring, but I do like the fact that Xavi will expect Nico to earn minutes both as the pivot backup or as an interior. Or maybe this was nothing and he just played there to get some minutes so Xavi could brush the cobwebs off of Pjanic. Plus, it was Roberto at right back again, which we can face it, doesn't do much for the creativity on the wings. He's going to be a deliver one really good ball through the middle every 70 minutes kind of guy, and he got less than 30 today. What was positive about that midfield trio, though, was that through the first 10 minutes, Juve did not get across midfield. They had absolutely no options. Kessié, in every minute he has played for FC Barcelona so far, has shown me that he's an elite presser, especially in Xavi's system. He fits. Nico, even if he's an interior or a pivot, he seems to understand the principles that Xavi is putting forth, and we know, again, what Busquets can do in the opponent's half of the field on that press, in the rest defense, to retain possession in, again, the opponent's half of the field. Those three seem to really understand what Xavi's doing, and I think, again, the silver lining here, just being positive in the preseason, is that even that midfield trio, which I don't know how much we're really going to see those three together from game to game, those three could fit well in that press in Xavi's system, meaning we've seen so far in the preseason, it's been plug and play with those midfielders. And even with Frankie de Jong playing center back, there's a lot of depth and a lot of players, more importantly, that understand what the interiors and what the pivot is supposed to do under Xavi. And that is going to do nothing but help this midfield have some kind of stability. When even if the back line, who knows what you're going to get from them, and the forward line trying to figure out who belongs up there at any given moment, having stability in that midfield is going to be essential to Xavi's long campaign and multiple competitions. In the final place, I saw a lack of creativity for Barcelona in that first half with Aubameyang on the left wing. It is an interesting fit with him out there too. If I was just judging on the preseason between Aubameyang and Memphis, I actually keep Memphis around, believe it or not. But we know that due to his contract and resale value, as well as Aubameyang's age and rising wages, that it has to be Memphis. I just think if we were to take the best of both players and combine what they do from the left and the center together, I think Memphis can offer more as a backup in two positions. But looking at them as players, there's no way that Memphis is going to be the fifth or sixth attacker on FC Barcelona, where Aubameyang at his age, as I said, knowing that he's getting paid at this point with those wages rising, that he's going to be able to just kind of fit in that role and get the minutes when he gets them. 3 is when Moise Kean attacked. I kind of did already do the thing about Dembele, how he carried Barcelona on his back. And Kean, he didn't really carry Juve on the back, but he did finish. He is kind of knocking on that ceiling of, is he an elite finisher? No, he's certainly not in that category. Doesn't really bag that many goals, but Juve are going to ask a lot of him this season unless they're planning on bringing in somebody else, and he certainly can get the job done. And for Juve, these were team goals. And so for Barcelona, I don't want to scapegoat any individual player. Again, I'm going to be a bit more accommodating to Barcelona's players because this is a preseason. They're trying to work some things out. And I also think that a lot of blame could go around to a lot of different names. Dest, Alba, Busquets, Garcia, Christensen, De Jong, Pjanic, all had some kind of issue in their positioning in the counterattack, or how quickly they realized the danger and got to the middle, their positioning, whatever it was. But yes, the omission of Araujo was noticeable, and every goal that goes in against Barca does keep Koundé on the mind. For a long while now, you've had that other center back next to Piqué. You're wondering, can he play that line-breaking ball? Can he make the difference from the back? And now with De Jong, again, we don't know how long he'll be sticking around, but if he is a center back this season, you have Piqué, you have Garcia, you might have Koundé, and you have Frankie de Jong. All players that can break through those midfield lines and play Barcelona out of pressure. Or, as we saw with Garcia, very much like de Jong, they're able to pick the ball up and get into the midfield and push that line of confrontation up. So you have a lot of players at Barcelona that can do it. I mean, Christensen even does it at a decently high level. We're seeing, as we expected with reviews of him coming from Chelsea, that he does everything at a pretty good level. It's not fine, it's not good, it's better than good. He does everything at a pretty good level. He doesn't really have necessarily an elite skill, but he defends better than Garcia and de Jong. He plays the ball better than Araujo, and he's just all around a stable figure. He's tall as well, more than Garcia, that's helpful. So for Christensen, I think his stability, once again, adding depth to Barcelona, with or without Koundé, is going to be essential to a long campaign. 4 is 2 posts within a minute. This game should have been 3-2. Barcelona should have had their winner, but Rafinha hit the post on the free kick, and Ansu tried to chip it in. He hit the post as well on a feed from Pablo Torre. And with those two hitting the post, it did get me thinking about a topic that we should probably talk about on the podcast, and I will, so I'm not going to spoil it here, but it did get me thinking about who the best 3 were for Barcelona. I saw some infograph on Twitter the other day that gave those choices between Ansu, Dembele, Rafinha, and Lewandowski, and as I said, this was before Lewandowski arrived, that there is no wrong answer here, and I think in the preseason so far, we have seen that there is no wrong answer. Between Rafinha and Dembele, they put in the goals. Haven't seen one from Lewandowski yet. We're still waiting. I mean, he'll probably bag 1 or 2. And Ansu as well. We're still waiting for the most clinical finisher. I mean, Lewandowski just changed that conversation. But Ansu was Barca's most clinical finisher last year with goals per minute. and I expect him to get back to that form again this season if he gets those opportunities. So obviously the best three for Barcelona, it's going to be Lewandowski in the middle, it's going to be Ansu or Dembele on the left, and Rafinha or Dembele on the right. I think there is no wrong answer. They said there, A, B, or C. Scantron says you're good to go. And don't worry, I think I will be in attendance on Saturday for maybe when Lewandowski's first goal comes. We'll see if he's rotated at all. Having started the last 2 matches in a week, sure. But for Lewandowski, I think he might start again just to get that goal, kind of get a little bit of that monkey off his back and be in good shape, be firing for the start of this season. As I said before, not to make an excuse for him, but that midfield that he was paired with to start the match wasn't necessarily going to give him a ton of service. And it was interesting to note that he doesn't really make that many runs into the half spaces for Busquets or Garcia long balls. And as much as that partnership between Lewandowski and Ansu and Pedri in that little triangle right there on that left side is important, I think the partnership between Busquets, as we saw with Busquets and Luis Suarez, or even the likes of Busquets and Luuk de Jong, we're talking about the partnerships between the pivot and a center forward. That's going to be just as important moving forward, I think, this season as any partnership that Lewandowski is going to have. And I think it really, truly is a work in progress. Two guys that played their way and played their way for a long time. They are the same age, so they are older guys who've been doing it for a while, and it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, I think, between those two in particular. And as I mentioned before, the depth of this forward line is just incredible when we saw Memphis come in. Again, I don't think he's long for Barcelona, but boy, if he stayed around, Ferran Torres getting healthy, and while a lot of Kool-Aids have already turned on Ferran Torres, sure, name me a better fifth attacker in the world than Ferran Torres or Memphis Depay on any squad. Again, let's say Memphis and Aubameyang stick around. There is no 5, 6, 7 like that anywhere. Maybe you bring up Chelsea, maybe have an argument, but their ceiling is a lot lower. I mean, they don't have Lewandowski, and they don't have Ansu Fati at Chelsea. And I don't think you have any other options. So, yeah, it's going to get more shallow when Memphis probably leaves, but now we're still arguing about those 5th and 6th spots for Ferran Torres and Aubameyang. Again, I don't think it's going to get any better. Barcelona's strike force is arguably going to be the best in the world this season. And we're going to talk about the finances and all that stuff later on in the week on a podcast and how Barcelona had made this happen, but they did make this happen. And if all those players are registered, La Liga is in a lot of trouble with Barcelona. And 5 instead of Pedri and Araujo. I know Kool-Aids will always try to find something to complain about, but this one did feel a lot more like a preseason friendly than the game against Real Madrid. I mean, instead of Pedri and Araujo, Kool-Aids retreated to Pjanic, Nico as an interior, Callado, Pablo Torre, and Marc Casado. I say that about Pjanic, but he wasn't very bad at all, and I don't know if it'll be the last time I talk about him, either here or on the podcast, but he did have a few passes through the lines, could take set pieces, but he doesn't really solve almost anything in transition either. He also doesn't move the ball horizontally with the same speed as Busquets, but it's hard to blame him too much for that in this one when his teammates kept changing, and he really hasn't had consistent match time for a while now. The silver lining for a player that should be gone when this tour ends is that he can still clearly contribute at a high level and should have a few suitors at the right price. And by the way, Casado did appear again, which is good for him, and he played at right back once more, not pivot, where he'll play with Barcelona Athletic, so I'm not worried about that at all. Abde came in on the left wing, and Callado also came in on the right wing for the final 10 minutes. And I continue to wonder what kind of time Callado will get this season. Because of Abde's unique dribbling skill, which has been a bit better in the preseason after some fine-tuning with Barca B in the spring, I think Abde may be more useful to Xavi. And again, as I said before on the forwards, as what? The 7th or 8th forward? I said about Abde, meaning that unless he finds that Callado's versatility to play as an interior or play as the right winger is that valuable, yeah, I'm not sure what the club is going to do with Callado, because it feels like they've almost backed themselves into a corner to say, hey, we kind of did promise this guy, if you proved your worth at Granada, which he did after sitting out until January to get a loan last season, that he was going to get his opportunity. And it feels like he is kind of getting his opportunity, but his shirt number, 23, makes a ton of sense to me, because out of 25 first-team players, it does feel like Callado is probably going to be number 23, meaning unless there is 2 or 3 or 4 injuries, and yeah, Barca play a lot of competitions, but unless there's multiple injuries, we're not going to hear that much out of Callado this season, and he might even go on loan in January. So that'll wrap that one up as Barcelona's U.S. tour continues on Saturday against the Red Bulls in New Jersey. A game that, as I've mentioned many times, I will be at. I'm excited to see this team in person for the first time in 5 years. Since my honeymoon at the Camp Nou. Now, I didn't have the exact honeymoon at the Camp Nou. I knew you have to pay extra for that nowadays with Barcelona trying to get money any way they can. But no, I did go to a match while I was there in Barcelona for my honeymoon. Again, Barcelona is also a great place to go on a honeymoon. For all the younger viewers who might be looking in the future to have a really, really nice honeymoon, it's a perfect spot for that. But anyway, I think that means we're at the end of this match review. The final note here is that for the podcast later in the week, we're going to be talking all about the finances. This is going to be really, really, maybe boring, but that's a good thing. It's going to be really confusing as well. A lot of financial terms. We've seen so much misinformation and just not enough of the actual truth, or they're just some kind of sensationalizing of Barcelona's financial issues. In the same regard, not really understanding what the real threats are or the real issues are going to be for Barcelona. So anyway, I hope that's a good plug for the podcast. I'm excited for that one. And as always, until next time, Forza Barça.